And a good Tuesday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on this Tuesday night, the 12th day of August, 2025. I tell you what, we are just excited. I mean that really sincerely tonight to have a dear friend. We're always grateful to have old friends back with us, and I emphasize more friends than old. She'd kill me if I emphasize the old part, but Bianca Gracia is on the phone with us tonight. It is so good to have you, buddy. It's been a while, and we're going to get you back on for a Zoom call, like a video, but I wanted to get you on tonight just on the phone to talk about several things, and so good to have you. Grateful to have you back on the McFiles. You're back in your familyhood here tonight, your neighborhood.
Well, thank you so much, Chris McDonald. It has been a moment, I guess, and so Listen, I feel like this is great. It feels like radio or something. You know, I do radio on Mondays, and so it's like it's radio. We got radio going on, but it is a pleasure and an honor always coming back and chatting with you and the audience, and and just catching up and going over things that we like to go over. So great to be back.
Yeah, it couldn't said it better, friends. Same here, and we have a radio show too. We need to get you on the radio one day when you're not doing your Monday show, and talk on that. And I'll get with you on that after the show this week. But
absolutely,
listen, wanted to run several things by you. I know you're sort of going back and forth, D.C. to Texas, and I know that you saw the news over the weekend, and really it started yesterday. President Trump announced he brought the federal National Guard in to start policing the streets of D.C. You've lived there for a little while. I think it's one of the smartest things that a president's ever done, because D.C., Bianca, has become like Beirut in many cases with this violence. And I just want to get your take on that and how you feel about that. The only people that are upset about it, I always measure these things about who's upset about it. And the only thing that's the people that are upset are liberal Dems. And if they're upset about it, you can be sure it's good for the country, right?
Well, that's funny that you say that. The people that are the paid characters. So, make no mistake. Someone's paid these people to go and complain and say that, something's wrong. But listen, President Trump basically told the mayor in D.C. to get her stuff together, to gilling up her city, to lock away, get a rule of order going on and a rule of law going on in that District of Columbia. And, it's been 8 months down the road, and we've got, we've had D.C. interns we had one for sure that got murdered over the summer. We've had D.C. interns get attacked, robbed. We've had the Navy Yard has become the Beirut. Yes, the Navy Yard is a big, big, big problem, Chris. And so, it's interesting that these people, and you're right. Look, it goes back to the Democrats. So I'm like, listen, if you don't want to have someone else come step in to clean up your mess, then clean it up yourself so we don't have to. Like, do you think that President Trump really wants to go in there and have to clean up your mess? No, he doesn't.
No.
He actually is promoting and wanting self-responsibility. But no, these people just can't do that. So they, what are you going to do? Have the streets continue to be, heathens running around? And look, I live in D.C., and I'm going to tell you, I'm just very, very fortunate and lucky, to be honest. I'm in an area of town that is pretty quiet and pretty safe, and really doesn't have a whole lot of commotion going on, right? But that's only some parts of D.C. Most of the other parts, are not good. There's a lot of parts that were used to be somewhere that people could go and have a nice dinner, sit outside. Now you can't do that at all. You can't walk around the streets because you don't know who's going to, try to come and take your purse. I mean, come on. Listen, Chris, they literally, robbed the secretary of DHS, Kristi Noem's purse out of a restaurant.
Exactly.
Out loud. So I'm like, are you serious now? Unfortunately, look, I'm this tough little Tejana girl from the South Texas. Look, I have a look. Okay, everybody goes, oh, she's got the look. I'm like, yeah, are you coming at me? Because you're going to be seriously sorry. So, but you got to be wise. And I'll give you an example, Chris, just so that the audience can know. I was at an event, and I was with a friend, and she was, and this is, people just need to be mindful, and this doesn't have nothing to do with just DC. This is anywhere. Just, you got to be aware of your surroundings. I mean, you always have to, you can't just be like, walking along and thinking everything is roses and, and cherries and blossoms and, blue skies. You've got to always be just aware of your surroundings. So we were at an event. We're not in a very bad side of town. It's a pretty okay side of town. It's not bad. But the street, I was driving, and I was, as I found his parking literally on the same, it's like down the street from the event place. And the event place was actually in a neighborhood. It was at somebody's house. And so I was walking. We were actually already leaving the event, I should say. We were walking back to the vehicle, and I noticed, and I, listen, I'm gonna call it what it is, because it's what happened. So there wasn't a whole lot of people walking down the street, and so I see two black males coming down the street, and they're walking together. And Chris, let me tell you, they look at me, and me and my friend we're at the white party, right? So we're wearing all white, and they look at us walking, and I was like, I don't feel good about this, right? So I tell my friend, hey, let's cross over the street. And they were walking in the same side of the sidewalk. I said, let's cross over the street. So as we crossed over the street to walk on the opposite end of the sidewalk, one of the males that you can see, I'm watching them, right? I'm watching them. So one of the males is, he's talking to the other male. And so the other male stays on that side of the street, and the other one crosses over.
Right.
And I said, yeah, not going to happen. So I told my friend, she was walking in front of me. I said, turn back now and follow me. She goes, what's going on? She's like, the car's over here. And I said, turn around now. So she turns around and hurry up and cross the street back. She goes, what are we doing? She's like, and so she's clueless. She's not even paying attention.
Right. I'm
like, cross the street. So we cross over the street, and I literally wait at the corner now. We don't go back into the event place because there's people still at the house. We don't go inside the house, but I stay on the corner, and I'm watching them, right? So I'm looking right at them. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? We're in a standoff right now. So one was on one side of the street, the other one's on the other side of the street. Why would you do that if you're walking? That makes no sense. So so the guy literally puts his, he leans up against the car, and he acts as if he is going to just lounge on the car, right? And so I'm like, we're going to stand here. So we stood in the corner. Finally, they didn't see us. So we go back to the front of the house. And go, I said, let's go ahead and walk in the house because there's people in the front. So we're just, waiting around. So I'm like, okay. And so we're at the house. So sure enough, we stand, I'm really right there on the door and the window, and I'm sitting there, and Chris, we wait for about 10 minutes. They were literally waiting for us.
Wow.
So
I don't doubt it.
We didn't walk. So we were in the house. So we were looking out the window, and then they finally just kept walking. And so once they left, I was like, okay, it's now safe to go. And that's what I'm talking about. It's just, your surroundings. You got to watch your surroundings, be aware of your surroundings, and you just got to make good decisions. And so my friend said, man, that was some quick, thinking. And I said, my husband's a cop. This is what, it's we're almost 30 years of marriage. So, of course, I'm going to be aware of my surroundings. I know what to look for. I know what to do. And so that's really what it came down to, Chris. And so, again, this was in D.C. It was not in a bad area. But even then, you have people who think that they can just walk around and get away with anything. And so, it is what it is. Like I said, look, you got warned. If you don't like President Trump or anybody else coming into your city to clean up your city, then freaking take care of your own city.
Yes, I'm not going to disagree with that whatsoever. And I'm also not going to disagree with the fact that, look, it's just like the situation in Cincinnati, Bianca. Those two individuals got pummeled by this mob of now 7 black men, and the media wanted to ignore the racial component. The media is now calling Trump a racist for doing this. The left, Jim Clyburn was out there today calling this Jim Crow 2.0. You had Jasmine Crockett saying that he wanted to eradicate every black in America. You had Who was the other one? There's more of this on CNN, and everything that Trump does is about racism. Has nothing to do. Karen Bass today. Exactly. It's talking point stuff. But I'm going to tell you something. At the end of the day, I don't give a what color your skin is. You break the law, you rape, you murder, you maim. You need to have your butt thrown in jail or not worse. And if the Washington D.C. Police Department was basically being handcuffed by their mayor and by these bureaucrats, they left Trump with no choice, Bianca. And I don't care. It's not racial to me. It's criminal.
Sorry about that.
No. It's not racial. It's criminal. And if the stats bear out that these were blacks doing the crime, we can't help that. We're not the stats people. We're just reporting the facts. That's what the stats say.
Well, the majority of the people that live in D.C., Chris, are black.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, and so there was a news conference, I guess today or something, and
it was.
So there was they were showing, they're like, hey, the people that suffer the most and the people who've been killed the most are blacks. So it's black. It's like a Chicago. It's black on black.
Black on black crime.
And so it's like, okay, hold on a second. How exactly is this racist? And so, okay, hold on. So you'd rather have people raping, murdering, pillaging, stealing your car, breaking into your house, beating people up on the side of the street. You'd rather have that than to have law and order, safe streets. And here's the other thing. People want to go. People are excited that Trump's back in office, and or they feel that the country is going in the right direction, Chris. And so with that feeling, people want to go to DC. They want to go and spend money, and they want to enjoy DC. But no, you know what? No, you can't. It's like you can't have nice things in Democrat cities. That's just the bottom line. You just can't have nice things in Democrat cities.
Sure, true.
So it's like Democrats. I mean, if you really don't want to be, what is it, labeled as the people or the party or whatever that is lawlessness, then clean up your city.
Clean up the city. I'll agree with that.
Our president shouldn't have to be doing your job. I mean, we have other stuff we have to worry about, and cleaning up your streets isn't one of them.
Totally agree.
It's just bad management. So it's, and that's what it comes down to. It's like, and here's the other thing. So living in D.C., and I'll give you an example. The place that I live has like 3 levels of security, right? You got to walk in through a front door, then you got a security guard, and then you got to scan in through the security guard, then you got to scan in through the other door. So it's like, no matter what, you got to, scan in all the way through. So I was talking to the security guard, and they work from 3 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I'm like, I don't know how y'all do it. And every single security guard that I have met has told me that they have another job. And they have actually 3 jobs. I'm like, wow. Wait, what? So how can you, wait a minute here. Like, how do you even rest? And they said, you can tell they're always tired. And they said, it's too expensive to live here. We have to have 2-3 jobs in order to even just have a place to live and have a car. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And they're like, yeah, I have my day job. I go home, I shower, and I go to my day job. And then I have to come here, from 3 to whatever. Or they come in at 6 or 7 or whatever to 3. There's maybe, I think, 2 shifts or something. And so I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then they do a weekend job. They have another something else that they do on the weekends. I said, this is insane. These people are working 3 jobs, just to even just make ends meet. And then you can't even have nice stuff. And you're working your behind off. This is insanity.
Well, let me define insanity. We'll move on to something else after I say this about all this, because I think the point's well taken. Did you see the Black Lives Matter leader today out there telling the world that Trump was making D.C. a more dangerous place by bringing cops in? And then, on top of this, the host of MSNBC's night show, this has got about 15 viewers, I guess, or 20 maybe if they're lucky on a good night. She's out there saying that she's a black woman and she don't feel safer with more police on the streets. Bianca, What would you say to those two folks? The Black Lives Matter people, that's a joke. I was almost laughing so hard I couldn't see straight today, which I can't see straight anyway because I'm getting old. But I just had to laugh at that. The Black Lives Matter, that's rich, isn't it? Coming from them that almost burned D.C. to the ground and Antifa during the 2020 riots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't feel safe with more, police on the streets. You know why they don't feel safe? Because if they break the law, they're going to jail. That's why they don't feel safe, because they can't run around and do whatever the hell they want to. That's why they don't feel safe. It has nothing to do with, I can walk around the street. That means you don't feel safe enough to go rob somebody else, take their food, or, break into their car, take their car, or just, beat up someone on the side of the street. I mean, seriously.
Seriously is right, buddy. Seriously is right. Want to talk about, second thing I want to talk with you about is your other residents, and that's in Texas. These Dems gave in tonight. I guess you've heard that all the cowards that ran from the state to escape the gerrymandering redistricting plan of Greg Abbott, they're coming back. But Ken Paxton basically laid the law down. They were on the brink of having their seats vacated today, and they gave in. As a Texan, I know that mine and your opinion of Greg Abbott's about the same. I mean, I don't live there. I know that I'm not the hugest fan of his, but, he seems to have done a little bit better over the last few years, at least on the outward. You can tell me more about that if you want to. But what is your thoughts about all this and how the Dems are always doing this in these blue states? But, boy, when the Republicans do it, it's Armageddon, Bianca. They think the world's coming to an end. I'm proud of these Texas Republicans finally doing something and drawing the maps. That's what they should do. They're in power.
Well, here's my take on it. So, yeah, I don't give any credit to these people at all. First of all, I talked about this on my radio show yesterday, Chris, and they were asking me about this kind of the same very question about how I felt about it. I said, first of all, if you're an elected, I call them selected now, selected officials. If you're a selected official and you say you're going to do something, then do it. Don't tell me you're going to do it and then not do it. You told them to show up by Friday 3 p.m. and they didn't, and you said you would vacate their seats. You didn't vacate their seats. Then you gave them a whole other weekend.
Exactly.
The whole weekend of a week to be on vacation on the taxpayers' money, which they don't care. So I'm sure, listen, if you know anything about politics, first of all, most of these Dems fund Abbott. So they're friends, and I'm sure they were on the phone, and they were probably making deals behind the, closed doors about what they're going to get in return for voting for this. This was an opportunity for Republicans and Democrats, this uniparty that wants to stay in power. This was their opportunity to fundraise.
Wow.
They know that they're going to have to either defend a seat or someone's going to have to run for a new seat. So they needed some kind of optic to raise money. And that's what both parties did, because they have to make sure that they stay in control. That's what that was about. The Republican Party had no intention of arresting anybody. They had no intention of vacating a seat. And I'm sorry, but let me see about withholding your paycheck, and you can come and pick it up and not direct deposit it. First of all, the House reps get paid $600 a month. So for a week's worth of work in a month, Chris, you do the math. Do you think that someone who's flying on a private jet and staying in high-dollar hotels, do you think they really care about their measly, $9, $10 check they have to go pick up in person? They don't care. That's a joke to them.
It's a joke.
So it was all semantics. Now, I had not heard the news about them caving in and coming back. So I haven't heard that. I've been on the road. I've been on the road for 3 hours, so I haven't caught up with what's going on.
It just happened within the last few hours. Gateway Pundits reported in Breitbart tonight. Okay. So it's just happened since you've probably been on the road.
Which was, again, it was going to happen. I mean, look, like it or not, this redistricting was going to be done. And here's the one thing that I find the most insulting of all. of all. And no one is talking about the elephant in the room. This is why Texas got redistricted. It wasn't because we just have more Republican voters. It's because the Hispanics, we are 46% of the population in Texas. We overwhelmingly gave Trump over 50% of our vote in the state of Texas. That's why we're getting redistricted, because we had so many areas that had Hispanic conservatives show up to vote for Trump.
Interesting.
That's what got us these new seats. But, the selected uniparty, they don't want to talk about that elephant in the room. They don't want to acknowledge that it was the Hispanics who led the fight to save this country. And so, therefore, they just want to ignore that elephant in the room.
It's an excellent point. And I was going to ask you, because me and you, I had the distinct privilege back in 2019, and it's going to be always one of the top 5 memories of my life when I went down and met you for the first time at the border, and we did the border feeding for those agents, and that Rio Grande Valley has always been dear to my heart. And I'm assuming that most of this redistricting is going to take place, because Rolando was on our program here a few weeks ago, and he said that there was record turnout down there in 24 for Trump, and it's going red, and they don't know what to do. The Dems don't know what to do about the Rio Grande Valley. Is that where a lot of this is taking place, or is it more in the central part of the state near Houston and the population centers?
No, so South Texas is a focus. With obviously redrawing those districts to be more red, obviously, because they are more red. And that's just a matter of fact. And then we have about 1 or 2 changes in the city of Houston, specifically in my backyard.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
In my backyard, we had overwhelmingly amount of precincts, and we're heavily Hispanic in my backyard. And so we are one of the brand new districts that is drawn, right? And then I think there's another one in Dallas. Now, this is very interesting. I was in D.C. before I moved to D.C. I was in D.C. in March, and I did sorry. When I first moved, I wasn't there in March, but in June, I did a briefing at the White House for Hispanics, and then we went over to the Capitol and did a briefing there with some of our Hispanic leaders. With one of our Republican leaders. And one of the Republican congressmen told us, he said, hey, obviously they hadn't even talked about this yet. It hadn't come out. Nobody knew about it. And he said, listen, he says, something's going to happen in Texas. And he says, I'm not super happy about it. He said, but he says, because of you guys. Okay, now we're 50 Hispanics in this room. He says, because of you guys. And he looks at me. And I'm going, okay, what? Because of us guys. And he says, Texas is going to get 5 new congressional seats. And we looked at him, we're like, what? And all of us were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, you guys. Well, again, because the Hispanics came out overwhelmingly. So I told him, and I said, okay, so isn't that a good thing? I told him, because, of course, there was no map. There was nothing. This was just him telling us this was coming down the pipeline. And I said, so why are you against it? And he said, look, the truth of the matter is these Hispanics just came out to vote for Trump in 2024. So you're going to redraw these districts to reflect the Hispanic vote. But what if those Hispanics don't come back out to vote because Trump's not on the ballot? So you're counting on a shift, but he says, I feel that we're just going to hand these 5 new seats. Maybe not this time, or maybe this time, he said, we're just going to hand them back over to the Dems.
I don't problem.
That's what he told me. And I said, that is a very scary thought, because I will tell you that Hispanics, the reason we came out and voted for Trump overwhelmingly is because he is a darn good candidate And you know what? He's not your typical politician.
That's exactly right.
And he does what he says he's going to do. And I said this on the radio yesterday. They're like, well, what would you, Abbott, da-da-da. I said, first of all, Abbott has been, for all the years I've known him, I said, it's just all talk. He's like a duck that quacks but doesn't walk and waddle. So, that's all he does is just, he's all talk. And I said, and he says, well, what about, President Trump? I said, look, President Trump doesn't. In fact, he doesn't even care. He knows he's going to get lawfare against him. He still does it. I said, and then what happens? I said, let them go fight it out in court. I go, and look what's happening with Trump. They're fighting him in court, and he's winning.
Winning every time.
So I was like, and so I'm sorry. I'm just a little sick and tired of Abbott and company and the likes and all the other states that do this shenanigans and optics and word salads, and they don't deliver, and they don't do what they're going to say. I'm like, do what you're going to say, because, and he says, well, what would you have done if you were governor? And I said, well, first of all, good luck. You didn't want me as a governor. I'd be governing lots. I would scare white people. Okay? And I'm not talking about white liberal people. I would scare the white right.
Yes, you would.
They'd be like, she is too right. She's radical. But I'm like, no, I'm just right. I'm not radical. I'm just like, it's normal, people. It's normal. It's normal to not believe that we must murder our kids. It's normal to not believe that I want somebody dressed up as a man that's a woman. A man that's dressed up as a woman reading to my kid that doesn't even know what a woman is. My kid thinks he wants to be a pirate tomorrow and a fireman today. And so I'm like, what? Come on. The logic here, like, this is just normalcy. It's normalcy. Okay, I don't want a freaking boy in my girl's bathroom. I don't want to go in the bathroom, Chris, and then have a male there.
Come on,
like, are you kidding me?
Come on, babe.
I don't, and I for sure am not ready to go walk into a man's bathroom. I have no business in a man's bathroom, and so therefore, these radical, crazy Sharia law, communist, Marxist ideas. Oh, let me own your grocery stores now in New York. Like this isn't work. It's not normal. So it's like, okay, let's go back to. If I was governor, first of all, if I said I was going to vacate the seats and arrest them, I would have already done it and just waited for the backlash. Let them go sue me, let them do whatever. But you know what? If you're not going to do something, don't say it.
I think me and you are going to run for president in 2028. I'm going to call it the Mac Gracia ticket. I think we could get along. We could be the Mac Gracia ticket. I think that'd be a winner. Because I tell you, my first press conference would be like yours, though. We probably would end our political career after the first press conference because we let it all hang out for about 15, 20 minutes on this media, and that'd be the end of that. And everybody would disown us. Right. Hey, speaking of the Marxists in New York City, of course, I hadn't talked to you in a long time, and so a lot of things have taken place. Do you believe, and I had Mike Simonelli on last Thursday night. He lives in D.C. He's a former detective and police chief up there, and he's retired now, and he is convinced, Bianca, that this guy's going to win. And he said, look, in a way, he hopes that he does because maybe he can get New Yorkers a taste of what socialism is, that it will make them so regurgitating sick that they'll never do it again. But he does not have any delusions that Zolamar Mandami is going to be the next mayor of New York City, a 33-year-old social Marxist. He's not even a socialist. He's a communist Marxist.
Yes, he is in Sharia law.
Sharia law.
So here's the thing. Sadly enough, yes, the guy's going to win. He is polling high. He is raising money, and these, they have somehow, these radical Democrat crazy people have taken over the whole Democrat Party because they've gotten even Jeffries didn't want to endorse him. He didn't. And then he ended up endorsing him, Chris. And you go, why in the world would you do that? Like, none of you have backbone either in your own party. It's like getting hijacked, and you're allowing it to happen. So they have all, pretty much caved and endorsed him. So he is getting all of the people, obviously all the support people, obviously they're sitting there, writing him checks. And Chris, at the end of the day, so, he is going to win, and people are not very happy with Mayor Adams. And look, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with Mayor Adams right now. Like, look what happened with the ICE agents. And it's like, okay, Mayor Adams, like, you're not doing yourself any favors either, right? And people are like, oh, we gotta do what we gotta do to get Mayor Adams in here, because if not, because the Republican has no chance of winning. They just don't. They don't pull well. They just don't have the money, and it's very sad. Yes, it's sad, but that's just the reality.
But Bianca, is that on purpose? Is because I was telling Mike this, that it's one thing to lay down and die, but it's another thing to just put a candidate up there that he's got 1 in a million shot of winning. Does not the Republicans have somebody in New York that can run for mayor other than Curtis Silwa? I mean, no, for goodness sake.
They don't. And here's the thing, and it doesn't matter if you do have anybody else, because at the end of the day, it's just not a Republican. New York is not Republican, and they're just not. And so you're kind of like stuck with, Mayor Adams right now is the only person that, and it's sad because obviously he didn't do any better, but at least he's willing to work with our president, and he's willing to work with Holman, and so at least he's done something to move in that right direction, right? But Chris, at the end of the day, these people, I mean, look, I am not agreeing, okay, Chris, I'm sorry, but look, when people sit here and say, hey, yeah, I hope he does win so they can get a taste of, that is a wrong attitude, because I
don't want him to win
right now, Chris. Let me tell you. You can tell me right now, Chris, and be honest. Anywhere in the world where communists has taken over, tell me who's been able to vote themselves out of communism.
None. Zero.
None.
Zilch.
That's right. So that's not a theory. So I've heard that somebody said to me, "Oh yes, we hope that he wins," and I'm like, have you lost your ever-living mind? They said, no, because then what will happen is we'll be able to fundraise. We'll be able to fundraise so much, and I'm like,
it ain't gonna matter.
It's not gonna matter. They're like, we'll be able to fundraise so much that we can, take over the state and vote in, what is her name?
Elise Stefanik. Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, you guys are living in a la la land. Like, this is not going to happen.
It's not.
Like, it's not going to happen. This is not. So yeah, Chris. Look.
No, I'm with you.
I feel about it.
And I like it, and I understand where Mike was coming from, but I'm with you. I don't think in anybody's worst nightmare and worst case scenario, they do not want a this Marxist Islamic jihadist who hates Israel. And I tell you what's going to happen, Bianca. This is what I see happening. I think that there's going to be the biggest mass exodus of business. It's going to bankrupt New York City is what it's going to do. Because these businesses are not going to sit there and take what this guy's dishing out. And I've got a feeling there's going to be a mass exodus of Jewish people, and a lot of them are going back home to Israel. I mean, I think in some ways it may even be biblical and prophetic, but I do believe that there is going to be an earthquake in the Big Apple that is not going to be felt without consequence for a mighty long time. Interesting stuff, and I'm with you on that. Did you ever, just me to you, did you think would get to this point that we would be on the verge? Because Minneapolis is about to do the same thing. Did you believe that we would get to this point, that we would actually be on the precipice of putting somebody like this 33-year-old punk kid in office like this? Have we reached that level in the country?
Yes, of course. Well, Chris, and here's the thing, the reason that I saw this coming is because they voted in AOC, they voted in all these other, crazy people from where is it, Muslim, women that they have voted in. So, so Chris, here's the thing. Yes, this has been coming because the Republican Party is weak. And if you don't
so
have, look, Trump is a strong person, but it's Trump. Okay, this is not the Republican. If the Republican Party was all like Trump, then maybe we wouldn't be seeing this happening. But the fact is that these rhino establishment people pretty much they're contributing to this. They are contributing to this, and this is where we're at.
I totally agree.
I mean, think about it, Chris. They're literally saying, "Oh, I hope they do win because then it will allow us to fundraise." So you think that because, like, that's your logic. Your logic is, yeah, let them win and we'll be able to fundraise.
Well, what this kid's promising, he's going to take the fundraising away, my friend. There ain't going to be any fundraising. All the money's going to be gone. You're not going to even have any money to fundraise with. You're not going to have a lemonade stand because he's going to own everything. The government's going to own everything.
And you know something else, Chris, is that this has already happened in California. If you think about it, look how California is right now.
Exactly right.
They have an exodus of people leaving. I mean, companies, they're coming to freaking Texas.
And they're coming to Tennessee too. Exactly right. They're coming to my state as well.
I'm like, oh, you ruined your state, so you want to come to my state because of the, tax benefits. But you're the one that voted for those benefits in California. So you should go fix your problem. But, once you vote in communism, you can't vote your way out.
You cannot vote your way out. Final few minutes with you here. We got a big event coming up Friday with President Trump and Vladimir Putin. I want to get your opinion on this. I admire President Trump. People don't give him credit. I saw the CNN lawyers basically lie about his record with the P7 deals. Do you realize that he has been in the middle of 7 peace deals with nations, Bianca, that have been at war, some of them for over 30 to 40 years, and he has helped broker peace. And you have to admire him for that. And yet it seems that the Russia-Ukraine thing has really been the only one that has sort of eluded him so far, but he's going to meet with Putin on Friday. And I just love his attitude. Look, the reporters tried to corner him yesterday, and he said, I'm going to know 3 seconds into this. He said, I'll know 3 minutes into the meeting whether we're going to get anywhere with Putin. And he said, we're going to do what we can to stop this, but we cannot force 2 countries that want to kill themselves to stop fighting. Do you think that we see any fruit coming from this, or do you think this is just going to be another? He's trying. You got to give him credit for trying, but I don't know if he's dealing with 2 fair brokers. I don't trust Zelensky no more than I do Putin. Neither one of them are worth shooting.
No, but I think that in his first term, he kind of had everybody settle down, right?
Yeah.
He was like, not while I'm in office. And, he is known to be the most genius negotiator. He finds out what it is that they both want, what they need, and not just want, but what they need. And he figures out a way to bring them to the table and meet halfway. Okay, so at least to broker a deal in the meantime while he's here, right? Because he's not going to nobody wants to get the United States involved in anything. At the end of the day, they really don't. Everybody wants our money, though, but they don't. At the end of the day, they really don't want the United States breathing down their throat. And especially now with President Trump in office, we are, strength for peace. And therefore, this is what we are dealing with right now. So I think that if he's going to go take a meeting, it's because they've got something.
I'll agree with that.
They were able to do something to bring them to the table.
It's a great point.
Because if they didn't, he's not going to waste his time. He has so many other things he's got to be doing, and he's not going to go waste his time and sit with people that aren't going to come to an agreement.
I think it's similar to what he did in North Korea the first term. I think that he would have never went to see Kim Jong-un unless he knew he was going to get some kind of he just walked across that border and signed that paper and walked back out. It was already done. So I think that's an excellent point, my friend, and I really do. I agree with that wholeheartedly. We'll see. I mean, again, we'll see what happens Friday. I'm praying for President Trump, and I'm praying that this goes well for the nation. And, Bianca, you think about it overall, it is a shame that nearly 1 million people have had to lose their lives because of this land. It's about dirt. Ultimately, this whole thing is about dirt. And that's the state of affairs that our world has gotten into. One final thing real quick, and next time I have you on, I'm going to talk about this more because I'm sure this story will still be developing as we go into the weeks to come. It was found out yesterday, over the weekend, Project Veritas, they had a whistleblower that evidently has blown the cover off of the aforementioned former Attorney General Bill Barr, who seems to have been Fannie Willis had more than one boyfriend, it seems. It seems like Bill and her were getting very close, and Nathan Wade wasn't the only one that she was probably taking on some of those vacations, but I'm not shocked at this. I never liked Bill Barr. I never could understand why Trump picked him. I understand Chris Christie had a lot of pressure. Are we not learning, I think, every day that goes by just how deep that swamp was and how many people truly hated him? And I think that he has learned some hard lessons the first term, but I think he's learned them the second term. Thank God for the cabinet he's got, but I tell you what, he had some rascals and just some scumbags.
Oh, yeah.
He had some scumbags in that first term, did he not?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And Chris, I think, look, they're getting better. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect system.
I'll agree.
If you read Laura Loomer, she's always talking about the vetting crisis at the White House. So there's always that. But you know what? It is getting better. I do know that every week they are handing out pink slips across the country to federal employees. So they don't talk about it. Nobody knows about it. The news doesn't talk about it. But every week there's about 1,200 to 1,500, pink slips that have been going out. And that's been going on since he got into office. So they are in a reduction of force, right? They are cutting costs. He's doing all of these things. So they are trying to really clean up the government. It's just going to take time because it is very swampy. Now, it all makes sense now. If you really think about it, Chris, look, we wondered why in the first term people like Bill Barr and Sessions and any of them, to be honest, any Republican, we always question why are they not doing anything?
Right.
Why are these people not doing anything? Pompeo was the same
Pompeo was the same way. He was a scumbag swamp.
I'm like, why in the world are these people? Because they never were there to help him. And, I'm like, who made these decisions? And whoever made those decisions in the first time, I hope is nowhere near his campaign anymore. And I think, obviously, they aren't because that was Mike Pence and what's his name? Race
Priebus,
yeah, exactly. So it was people like them that were causing all this commotion and the nonsense. And we're literally backstabbing him. So I think he really has surrounded himself with good people. He surrounded himself with his loyalists, especially like the ones immediately around him. The ones who are immediately in his inner circle are the people who probably have been the most loyal to him and have been with him even prior to 2016.
Totally agree, buddy. Totally agree.
But it's not perfect. It's not a perfect system.
No.
We have a long way to go, Chris.
Well, I think compared to what he had the first term, this crew looks like Ronald Reagan. I mean, compared to what he had the first term, I'll take this group over any of the ones that he had in the past. I do want to ask you 1 to 10, 10 being the most likely, 1 being the least. And you're a straight shooter. This is why I love you. You're a dear friend. You are my amigo, and I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. But I know you're going to give me an honest answer about this. 1 to 10, does Bianca Gracia believe that there are going to be any arrests coming out of this Russiagate hoax? And I'm not talking about the mortgage fraud with Letitia James and Al Ship, but I'm talking about the Clintons, the Obamas. Of course, Obama's got immunity, but the underlings, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, all this bunch that was involved with this Russia hoax and all this crap that put the country through, and it was illegal. It was unconstitutional what they did to President Trump. It was outright criminal. They need to pay a price, Bianca. But do you believe that we're going to get anything more than smoke and mirrors on this too? Or is somebody going to pay a price for what they put this nation through 8 years ago?
So, unfortunately, Chris, no, I hate to say that, but I hate to say this, but I don't believe there's going to be any arrest.
Okay.
I would love to feel that there was people who were going to be held accountable, and I'm just not going to trust the government, whether it's Trump at the helm or not right now with all of it. I just don't feel that we're going to get the justice we deserve in this country. And so until I actually see it happening, will I then believe it? But other than that, no, I don't believe that's going to happen. Now, it's really even more sad for me because I am close to General Michael Flynn, and he is one of the first that he was politically persecuted.
He paid a high price for this. He did. And
him and his whole family has paid a high price for
Roger
this.
Stone paid a high price for it.
Yeah, exactly. And so what's really sad for me is that I just don't feel that they will get the justice that they deserve for everything that they were put through and everything they went through. And so I think that we won't see justice on this earth, but there will be justice in heaven. Me
and you couldn't agree with that more, buddy. Couldn't agree with that more. Listen, I'm going to get with you this week. I'd love for you to come on our radio show in the afternoon one day and let's banter this stuff again. But I'm going to get you back on the McFiles very soon. And I will see you in D.C. At some